So I wanted to talk about a certain kind of child advocacy organization that exists, at least in America. I'm assuming there's something approximately similar, let's say like in the UK or England or Canada or something like that. But I do not know about the rest of the world. But in America, there are these child advocacy centers, CACs, that basically combine all of the professionals you might need to assess a child that you think or to have experienced like some kind of abuse or trauma. So they often will have like a forensic psychologist. They'll have nursing or medical staff, doctors, people that can do like physical evaluations as well as psychological evaluations. And the reason why these particular places are so important is that they do it in a way that is legally viable. So they can do the medical examination and it stands up in a court of law. They can do the um, psychological examination and it stands up in a court of law. It becomes a piece of evidence. What often parents who have kids that have experienced something do is they start asking detailed questions. And the problem with that is once you start asking detailed questions, you can accidentally start leading the child to a conclusion. You can also confuse them because there are concepts that they don't know about. And so, interviewing somebody in a way is to get information without pushing them in a direction or leading them in a direction is truly it's a skill. And so parents unintentionally trying to get to the bottom of whatever the situation is, they make it worse. And it simply could be that they maybe did get valid information, but now they kind of messed up what is available to be presented in a court of law from a position of credibility and authority. And so you might have a parent of a child who's been victimized in some way and who's like, why can't I get justice? I'm telling you what my child told me. And it's because you're not a professional, and any halfway decent defense attorney is gonna say, listen, you were probably leading the child. And they might not even necessarily be wrong. When because I have the paralegal background, whenever I've had to kind of ask my son questions about things, and it's not been in this kind of a context, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about like generally speaking. I'm generally extremely emotionally neutral. We're just having a conversation. I am not in an emotionally activated place. So it doesn't feel like life or death. And the kid isn't like trying to guess. My son's not trying to guess like what to tell me to make sure that I'm okay. A lot of kids are trying to manage their parents' emotions. Even if it's not, even if you're a good parent, if they don't interpret you as being, let's say, in control or having, you know, being a foundational person that they could rely on, they may not be fully honest with you. So one of the things that I do is in general, again, if this were to happen, if I were to have this suspicion or something about a situation with my son, or I believe that there was some kind of an issue that I needed his information for, I would take him to a professional. I think a lot of the time people recommend like the child's pediatrician, which I don't know where y'all live, but where I live, those everyone's backed up for they're way in the weeks in the weeds for scheduling things. They probably would for an emergency. But also if you have like a better option. I'm typically going to recommend like an emergency room. Like a children's hospital emergency room. They're going to have people on staff generally, or child advocacy centers. Like if I recognize, oh, there's a problem here, and I don't want to affect like the chain of the custody of the information, I would do that. But if we're not talking about that kind of situation, and I'm just trying to get information, but in a neutral way, um, very neutral emotional affect, we're like light, we're friendly. We may not even be sitting face to face. We might be side by side. These conversations are great for in a car. They are great for when the child doesn't feel like you are have talking at them. Um and while something is occurring. It's also harder to it's harder to lie when your hands are doing something. So, like if we were doing a thing, um maybe hiking, or I don't know, doing something around the house maybe. But just light questions, not leading questions, neutral questions, and then just letting them talk. And then sometimes you just let there be silence, and you just, and sometimes they'll start talking to fill the silence. You get a lot of information that way. And then the other thing you do is, or at least I do, is I will put him in the driver's seat. So if there's, for example, like we've had these conversations around, maybe there was a teacher that wasn't doing anything that was fair. I will say, do you want me to come in and yell at somebody? Because I will. Or do you want to handle it? And often he wants to handle it. Often he doesn't want to do something. And now I reserve the right to make an executive decision and come in with full power and authority as like his parent if I determine that that's necessary. But I prefer to, if I don't think it's at that level, I prefer to let him make the decision, because he's the one who has to go to school. He's the one who has to deal with the teachers. He's the one who has like a better understanding of his personal situation. And even though he's not, he, he doesn't have the same level of knowledge that like an adult would have, he's we can well, how do I want to put this? It's good to give your children opportunities for trust. So I'm not going to say that they know best, because that's not true. But giving them the opportunities to work out their knowledge. So, for example, if he's having a problem with a teacher, and we're talking about it, and he says, "Well, I want to handle it," and it's like, okay. And then maybe he has more problems with that teacher, and I'm like, "Do you want me to like do something?" And he's like, "No, that's okay." And I'm like, "All right." And then maybe a third thing happens, and then I go, "Hey, you know, doesn't it seem reasonable that I would need to come in now and like do a thing about this?" He generally understands. Um, but I want it to be kind of like a safe space where he can tell me the information, because you don't know that you need to do something if you don't know that there's stuff happening. You just can't come in and just like jump on everything. We're not trying to be controlling, trying to give him tools, because again, he's the one who has to go to school. He's the one who has to like deal with people. I'm not there at the school. And if I were, that would, I mean, I know there's some people that volunteer at their kids' school, but I don't know. That seems like you're very around a lot. That may be good for some families, but I feel like I would like to give my kid a little bit more space in that. Um, so essentially, I give him a solid amount of privacy. He doesn't have complete privacy, and when there's an issue, I will 100% say, "Listen, I don't want to be going through your stuff, but you know, this issue is significant enough that I need to do this. I'm being irresponsible and a negligent parent if I don't." And so I try to I've only done that maybe twice, where no, actually maybe once. It's only been necessary like once, where I finally was like, "Yeah, listen, I let you take the lead the first time. This time I got to go through your stuff. I really would prefer not to, but this is important, and I'm here. I'm a safe person, but I'm also responsible." So anyway, this is not to tell anybody how to handle things. Is more, I just want to kind of like explain how I handle things. And one of the reasons why I feel very strongly about this is that one of the worst things I've ever done in my life, I did when I was a kid. And I don't mean like an older kid. I mean like I was a younger kid. And it happened because my dad suspected something and started asking me questions, and you could tell he was upset. And since he'd been abusing us, and in another video I had talked about how he had threatened, like, if I'd ever called the police, that he would kill me. So he was like, he was asking me these questions. He clearly had something in mind that he thought had happened. And at this point, I'm just trying to guess what he wants to hear because I'm terrified, not of other consequence. I'm terrified that he's gonna do something. Um, and as a kid, you aren't always necessarily thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I think he's gonna kill me." You're terrified to that level. You just don't have the words to articulate it. So I ended up essentially agreeing to something that he unintentionally pushed me into saying happened that didn't happen. I can't take that back. I can't take that back. And so that singular incident has informed so much of who I am and how I look and think at the world. Because he was trying to do, in that instance, he was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to protect me, but I didn't understand that because I didn't trust him. Because every other time he had been not just dangerous, but like dangerous to the point where I'm at afraid for my life level of fear. So I just wanted to tell him whatever it would take to make him calm down. And then he didn't calm down because I told him what he clearly was looking for. But then he was like, okay, well now we've got to do all this other stuff. And it became like a runaway train. And I was like, I can't come forward and like tell him because I'm still afraid I'm going to get murdered. Um, and so anyway, so with my son, obviously I have discussed this particular incident with him and I'm like, listen, the things that you tell, they need to be true. Now that doesn't mean he's never lied to me, but we're doing our best. When it comes to very serious things. So whenever I'm talking to him about a topic, light, present, loving, warm, but it's no big deal. You just let me know what you would like to let me know. You're in the driver's seat here. And so I'm not telling anybody that they have to do it that way. I'm just explaining the way I handle it and the reason why. You can't take things back. And just because you've been a victim doesn't mean you can't harm other people. And so I know this is very triggering when people come across these videos without any of the context of the rest of the videos of this channel. And that's why I generally tend to try to be explaining to somebody who's feeling triggered because they don't know. But 100%, I know that you can be a victim and also harm other people. Anyway, I hope this makes sense. And just that when you are an adult, you can kind of create that safe place. It doesn't mean that they will always use it, and it doesn't mean they won't lie to you. But the more you have that established, there will come a point where they go, oh, this is the person I can go to, Oh, and one more thing. So when my son would come to talk to me about things that his dad was doing, that was like a very hard situation to navigate because I wasn't in a legal position to prevent him from going to see his father. I wasn't in a position to stop his father from doing these things. Depending on what the incident was. Like sometimes I was able to say, listen, continue and I will do XYZ. And I will file something with the court. But most of the time it's not to that level. And you kind of have to have a pattern of behavior. So it gets kind of tricky. But what I would do is I would create that safe place for him to come and talk to me, and I would be documenting, and then having conversations with his dad as I thought necessary. But sometimes you play the long game, and you get enough of a pattern of incidences that you can do something about it. It's always going to be variable per the abuser, per the situation. This is always why I like to refer people to a person in your life that you can sit down and talk to about your specific situation. Talking to an attorney, talking to a domestic violence counselor at a shelter, talking to like an individual who can ask you questions, get more details, drill down on the situation. So many victims of abuse are very intimidated by going to a professional and they just try to like get the information from online. And the problem is that everybody's experience, even while there's similarities, you know, is not necessarily going to have the same outcome because you're dealing with different people who may be doing different things. So you just kind of like if you can get to a person that you can get informed information, professional level information on your specific situation. And then now you're like, okay, here are my tools. Here's what I can do where I live. You're in a much better place to kind of follow the promptings of your inner voice, of your gut or your instinct, your intuition, to kind of navigate it. I don't think there's a one size fits all. And so I know that's frustrating when you're looking for the answer for your situation. But all I can do is tell you like what I did and what I'm thinking and my framework and kind of like offer that. But also, I, I like to point people back to themselves because you are the person who is living in your situation. You are the person who understands more broadly what is happening. And you are the person who has the ability to make the decisions about it and to take action. And it is the opposite of the abuse dynamic. The abuser wants to take away your choices, take away your autonomy and your free will. And I want to give it to you. Or not give it to you, but like, give it back to you. Get in front of a person. Get in front of a person. And I know it's scary. And you know, still do it. And then that way you've got better information and more of a solid ground to stand on to decide what you want to do. I hope this makes sense, and I will talk to you next time.